Most people think a life falls apart in one terrible moment, one mistake, one night, one decision. But that is not how it usually happens. A life falls apart quietly. It begins years earlier, in moments so small no one thinks to remember them. A missed bill on the kitchen table. A mother pretending she is not tired. A child learning too early that money can change the temperature of an entire house. This is you. You are 11 years old. The year is 1998. Your neighborhood is not the worst place in the city, but nobody would call it safe. The houses are close together. The sidewalks are cracked. Some families keep their curtains open. Others keep them shut all day. In the summer, kids play basketball until the streetlights come on. In the winter, everyone disappears indoors before dark. Your mother's name is Diane. She works at a laundry facility on the east side of town, washing and folding sheets for hotels she will never sleep in. Most nights, she comes home smelling like soap, steam, and exhaustion. She never tells you how tired she is. She just puts her purse down, kicks off her shoes, and asks if you finished your homework. Your father left when you were 4. You remember pieces of him, a voice, a laugh, the smell of cigarettes on a jacket, but not enough to miss him properly. Into that empty space steps your Uncle Ray. Ray is your mother's older brother. Broad shoulders, rough hands, a slow laugh that makes people trust him before they know why. He works on cars, fixes neighbors' sinks, and always seems to have motor oil under his fingernails. He is not your father, but he shows up like one. He takes you to basketball games. He sits in the back row at school assemblies. He teaches you how to throw a punch only after teaching you when not to use one. On Sundays, when your mother cooks chili, Ray comes over with a plastic bag full of groceries he pretends he bought by accident. Your mother always knows. She never says anything. Neither do you. At 11, you do not understand poverty yet. Not fully. You understand that sometimes the lights flicker before the bill gets paid. You understand that your mother counts cash at the kitchen table when she thinks you are asleep. You understand that Uncle Ray gives her money sometimes, and she always looks ashamed when she takes it. But you also understand love. And for a while, love is enough. You are not a bad kid. You are not brilliant either. You are steady. Your 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Hartwell, tells your mother you have potential. She says it with a smile, like potential is something solid, like it can be cashed at a bank or used to pay rent. Your mother holds on to that word, potential. She repeats it on the walk home. You are 11, so you believe her. You believe life is something that opens if you just keep walking toward it. Then you get older, and the neighborhood gets smaller. By 14, you start noticing things you did not notice before. Boys only a few years older than you wearing shoes your mother could not afford after 2 weeks of work. Cars idling too long on corners. Men standing outside convenience stores with no job, no hurry, and too much money in their pockets. Nobody explains it to you. They do not have to. You begin to understand. At 15, you apply for your first job. The manager looks at your application for less than 10 seconds before saying they are not hiring right now. 2 weeks later, you see a different kid from school wearing the store uniform. You apply somewhere else. Same answer. You tell yourself it does not bother you. But it does. Because at home, your mother is still tired. The bills are still there. The refrigerator still hums half empty some nights. And Uncle Ray is still trying to cover the gaps, one repair job at a time. One evening, you find your mother asleep at the kitchen table with her work shirt still on. Her hand is resting beside a stack of bills. The TV is on low in the living room, playing to nobody. You stand there for a long time. That is one of the moments. Not dramatic. No music. No warning. Just a child looking at his mother and realizing love does not protect people from being worn down. By 16, the streets have learned your name. Not because you are important, because you are around. You walk the same blocks, you play on the same courts, you know which houses to avoid and which corners go quiet when police cars turn down the street. That is when you meet Derek. Derek is 23, lean, calm, careful with his words. He does not look like danger when you first see him. That is the problem. He watches you play basketball one afternoon and tells you your jump shot is decent, but your footwork is lazy. You laugh because you think he is joking. He is not. The next day, he brings it up again. Then he asks about school. Then your mother. Then your father. Derek remembers your answers. That is what gets you. Not money. Not fear. Attention. He makes you feel like someone is studying your life, like it matters. And when you are 16 years old, with a tired mother and an absent father, being noticed can feel a lot like being rescued. Uncle Ray does not like him. He never says it directly at first. He just watches Derek from across the court one evening, wiping his hands with a rag, even though there is no oil on them. Later, in the car, Ray says, "Be careful who makes you feel important." You look out the window and say, "He ain't do nothing." Ray keeps his eyes on the road. That's usually how it starts. You hear him, you really do. But hearing something and understanding it are not the same. 3 weeks later, Derek tells you there is someone you should meet. He says it casually, like he is inviting you to a cookout. You ask who. He says, "Pookie." You have heard the name before. Everybody has. On the street, Pookie is not a rumor exactly. She is more like weather. Something people speak about carefully, because it affects everything. You expect someone loud, someone flashy, someone who wants the room to know they are powerful. Instead, you walk into the back room of a small beauty supply store and find a woman sitting at a folding table with a notebook, a calculator, and a cup of tea. She looks up at you once, not impressed, not disappointed, just measuring. Pookie is maybe in her early 30s. Her voice is calm. Her clothes are plain. Her eyes miss nothing. She asks your name, your real name, not what people call you on the court. You tell her. She repeats it once, like she is placing it somewhere in her mind. Then she says, "Derek tells me you listen." You do not know how to respond, so you say nothing. That makes her smile. "Good," she says. Most people talk themselves out of opportunities. She does not offer you money that night. She does not threaten you. She does not ask you to prove yourself. She talks about the neighborhood, about survival, about how some people are born with doors already open, while others spend their whole lives trying to find the handle. Then she says something you will remember for the rest of your life. Everybody out here is trying to survive something. The question is whether you survive it alone or with people who know your name. At 16, that sounds like wisdom. Years later, in a prison cell, you will understand it was a sales pitch. But not yet. That night, you go home before midnight. Your mother is asleep. Uncle Ray's truck is parked outside because he fixed the kitchen sink earlier and stayed late to make sure it stopped leaking. You stand in the hallway and listen to the quiet house. For 1 second, you feel like you are standing between two doors. One leads back to the life you know. School, work applications, bills, waiting. The other leads somewhere unknown, somewhere dangerous, somewhere that, for the first time in your life, feels like it might actually see you. You do not choose that night, not officially. You just go back the next day, and the day after that. And that is how it begins. Not with blood, not with violence, not with a gun in your hand. It begins with a conversation, a name remembered, a tired mother, an uncle's warning, and a boy who wanted so badly to matter that he mistook being used for being loved. You tell yourself you're only there to listen, nothing more. You stop by after school once or twice a week. Sometimes Derek is there, sometimes Pookie is. Sometimes it's just a handful of people talking about the neighborhood, sports, or the latest headlines. Nobody pressures you. Nobody tells you what to do. That is what makes it so easy to keep coming back. The place begins to feel familiar. People ask how your mother is doing. Someone remembers you mentioned a math test the week before. Another asks whether Uncle Ray ever finished restoring the old pickup truck he keeps talking about. They remember details. Details most people forget. For the first time in a long time, you feel noticed. You mistake that feeling for belonging. Weeks turn into months. The conversations become expectations. If someone asks you to help carry boxes, you do it. If someone needs you to deliver a message across the neighborhood, you agree. None of it feels serious. At least, not yet. You convince yourself you're helping people you know. Nothing more. Derek notices your hesitation. One evening, the two of you sit on the hood of his car, overlooking an empty basketball court. The sun has almost disappeared behind the apartment buildings. "You think too much," he says. "I don't think enough." He smiles. "No, you think about what everybody else wants." You look down at your shoes. "My mom works herself to death." "I know. I've tried getting jobs." "I know. It ain't enough." Derek nods slowly. Sometimes the world doesn't leave people with good choices. Those words stay with you. Years later, you'll realize something important. The world can make choices harder, but it never stops them from being choices. You just don't understand that yet. Your mother notices you're home less often. She asks where you've been. You tell her you're hanging out with friends. She smiles because she's relieved you're not getting into trouble. The lie isn't what hurts. It's how easy it becomes to tell. Uncle Ray notices something different. Not where you go, how you carry yourself. One Saturday morning, he asks if you want to help him replace the brakes on an old sedan. You almost say no. Almost. Instead, you spend the afternoon handing him tools while classic rock plays through a dusty garage radio. For a few hours, everything feels normal again. When the work is finished, Ray leans against the workbench. "You ever think about becoming a mechanic?" You shrug. "Maybe. You'd be good at it." "It don't pay enough." The words leave your mouth before you can stop them. Ray goes quiet. He studies you for a long moment. "Who told you that money was the only thing that makes a man successful?" You don't answer. Because you don't know. Maybe nobody. Maybe everybody. By 17, your world has changed without you noticing. Your phone rings more often. People know your name. You recognize faces across the neighborhood that once meant nothing. The streets begin feeling less like somewhere you live, and more like somewhere you belong. That feeling is dangerous. Not because it happens all at once, because it happens slowly enough that you never question it. One evening, Pookie asks you to stay after everyone else leaves. She closes a notebook and folds her hands together. You've been reliable. You nod. You listen. Another nod. You don't create problems. Silence. She smiles slightly. Those qualities are rare. No celebration. No handshake. No speech. Just quiet approval. You leave feeling taller than when you walked in. You spend the next week replaying that conversation in your head. Your mother notices you've been smiling more. She tells you she hasn't seen you this happy in years. That sentence should have made you stop. Instead, it convinces you you're finally doing something right. Money begins appearing in your pocket more regularly. Not enough to change your life overnight. Just enough to help. One afternoon, you quietly pay the overdue electric bill before your mother gets home. She stares at the receipt on the kitchen counter, then at you. Where'd this come from? You hesitate. I've been helping somebody. She knows there's more to the story. You know she knows. Neither of you says another word. That silence weighs more than any argument ever could. The lights stay on that month. Your mother cries in the bathroom, where she thinks you can't hear her. You pretend not to notice. The neighborhood starts looking different. Not because it changed, because you did. You stop seeing boarded-up buildings. You start seeing opportunity. You stop seeing abandoned lots. You start seeing territory. You stop seeing strangers. You start seeing people who either belong or don't. The change is almost invisible. Until one afternoon, a little boy loses control of his bicycle and crashes into the sidewalk in front of you. A year ago, you would have run over immediately. Today, you watch for a second longer than you should. Someone else helps him before you do. That night, lying in bed, you think about it. Only for a minute. Then you convince yourself you're overthinking. The truth is much simpler. Your heart has begun protecting itself by feeling less. And every time that happens, it becomes easier for the next piece of yourself to disappear. Derek notices your confidence growing. He claps you on the shoulder one evening. You've grown up. You smile. You think it's a compliment. You don't realize growing older and growing harder are not always the same thing. Across town, life continues exactly as it always has. Your mother still wakes up before sunrise. She still leaves for work while the neighborhood sleeps. Uncle Ray still fixes cars. Mrs. Hartwell is still teaching another classroom full of children with potential. The world keeps moving, completely unaware that your story has already begun bending towards something none of them can see. Somewhere, decisions are already being documented. Security cameras capture faces. Investigators file reports. Conversations are quietly remembered. You know nothing about any of it. As far as you're concerned, life has finally started going your way. And that's the cruelest part. The road that leads to disaster rarely feels dangerous while you're walking down it. Most of the time, it feels like progress. At 18, people stop treating you like the new kid. Nobody announces it. There is no ceremony. One morning, Derek greets you with a nod that carries more weight than any speech. Pookie begins asking for your opinion before making decisions. Older members who once ignored you now move aside when you enter the room. Respect arrives quietly. That is how you know it is real. For a while, you mistake respect for security. You believe you have finally built something no one can take away. You begin buying groceries before your mother has the chance. You replace the old refrigerator after it dies in the middle of July. When the washing machine breaks, you have another one delivered before the weekend. Each time, your mother thanks you. Each time, she asks fewer questions. Not because she doesn't wonder, because she is afraid of the answer. One evening, she folds laundry in silence before finally speaking. "I miss when we talked." You look up. "We still do." She smiles sadly. "No." She folds another towel. "We live in the same house." The room falls silent. Some conversations end long before anyone leaves. Uncle Ray grows more direct. He stops hinting. He stops hoping you'll figure it out on your own. One rainy Friday night, he calls and asks you to come by the garage. The old pickup sits inside with the hood raised. The engine isn't running. It never was. It was only an excuse to get you there. Rain taps against the metal roof. The hanging work light sways slightly. Ray wipes his hands with an old shop rag before looking at you. "I know." Your stomach tightens. "I know who you've been spending time with." You try to speak. He raises a hand. "Just listen." You do. "I've watched boys grow into men out here for 30 years. He pauses. "And I've buried more than I ever should have." His voice remains calm. That somehow hurts more than if he had shouted. "You think you're different?" "I am." "I said the same thing when I was your age." You stare at him. "I made choices I was lucky enough to survive." He steps closer. "You may not get that same chance." For several seconds, neither of you speaks. Finally, he places a hand on your shoulder. "I'm not asking you to be perfect." His eyes begin to water. "I'm asking you to come home before I lose you." Those words stay with you all night. The next morning, you go right back. That becomes the decision you regret more than any other. The months that follow begin changing faster than the years before them. People become suspicious. Meetings become shorter. Phones are replaced more often. Names stop being spoken out loud. Even Derek laughs less. One afternoon, you ask if everything is all right. He looks toward the window before answering. "You ever get the feeling somebody's watching?" You laugh. He doesn't. For the first time since you've known him. He looks afraid. Pookie gathers everyone one evening. She stands at the front of the room with the same calm expression you've always admired. We stay disciplined. Nobody interrupts. We don't panic. Silence. We don't make emotional decisions. She looks around the room. If someone wants us, they'll have to prove it. Everyone nods. You do too. But something feels different. Like the room has become smaller. Like the air has become heavier. Weeks pass. Nothing happens. Life settles back into routine. You convince yourself everyone was overreacting. Then November arrives. It is cold enough that your breath hangs in the air. You wake before sunrise. The coffee finishes brewing. You grab your jacket from the chair. You check your keys. Just another morning. You pull the blinds open. Black SUVs line the street. Your heartbeat stops before your body does. Someone pounds on the front door. Another voice shouts from outside. "Federal agents! Search warrant!" Your mother steps into the hallway, wearing her robe. Confused, terrified. The second knock rattles the entire house. You look at each other for one brief moment. Neither of you says a word. You already know. When you open the door, the morning disappears beneath a wall of dark jackets, radios, and badges. Everything happens at once. Commands, handcuffs, neighbors watching through curtains, your mother crying behind you. You never even think about running. Somewhere deep inside, you already understand there is nowhere left to go. Hours later, you sit inside a gray interview room. Metal table, metal chair, no windows. Across from you sit two federal prosecutors. Between them lies a folder thick enough to change a life. One of them slides a document toward you. We're offering you an opportunity. You already know what it is. Help us. You remain silent. The prosecutor opens the folder. Photographs, phone records, financial documents. Months become years. Years become evidence. They know more than you imagined possible. Your lawyer arrives shortly afterward, sharp, prepared, relentless. She studies every page, challenges every witness, questions every assumption. For months, she fights harder than anyone else ever has. But some battles are lost long before the courtroom opens. When the verdict finally comes, the room is completely still. Guilty. One word, then another, and another. 7 times. Each count lands like another lock closing behind you. The judge adjusts his glasses before speaking. His voice is steady. The sentence of this court, you barely hear the rest. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Your mother gasps. Somewhere behind you, someone begins crying. The courtroom clock keeps ticking. It does not care. Nothing does. The ride to maximum security is quiet. Steel doors replace wooden ones. Concrete replaces grass. Fluorescent lights replace sunlight. Your new home measures 9 feet by 6. 1 cot, 1 sink, 1 toilet, 1 narrow window placed too high to see through unless you stand on your toes. The first night, you do not sleep. The second, you barely do. Eventually, exhaustion teaches you what peace never could. Years pass differently inside prison. Birthdays become numbers. Seasons become temperatures. The outside world continues without asking your permission. Your mother comes every visiting day. She brings photographs, old birthdays, basketball games, pictures of Uncle Ray standing beside that pickup truck with grease on his hands and a smile on his face. One afternoon, she places a photograph against the visitation glass. You are 11 years old. Uncle Ray has one arm around your shoulder. The two of you are laughing. You cannot remember what was funny, only that you were happy. She presses her hand against the glass. You press yours against the other side. An inch of plexiglass has never felt so impossible to cross. Pookie never visits. Neither does anyone else. Months later, a letter reaches you. Derek accepted a deal. He testified. He now lives somewhere under another name. Pookie received a far lighter sentence than anyone expected. For years, you believed loyalty meant never walking away. Now you understand something else. Real loyalty isn't measured by who stands beside you when everything is easy. It's revealed by who remains when standing beside you costs them something. Most of the people you protected were already protecting themselves. Night becomes the hardest part of prison. When the lights dim and the noise fades, your memories grow louder. You return to that little house, your mother's laughter, Uncle Ray teaching you how to shoot a basketball, Mrs. Hartwell saying you had potential. You remember the first time Derek remembered your name, the first time Pookie made you feel important, the first lie, the first compromise, the first time you ignored the voice telling you to turn around. Looking back, there was never one decision that ruined your life. There were hundreds, small enough to excuse, easy enough to repeat, until one day they became impossible to undo. Tomorrow is visiting day. Your mother will be there. She always is. She will smile the same smile she has carried through every year of your sentence. She will tell you she loves you before the guards tell you time is up. She has never stopped being your mother, even when you stopped being the son she dreamed you would become. Somewhere across this city, another child is 11 years old. Another mother is working a double shift. Another father is missing. Another Uncle Ray is trying to keep hope alive. And somewhere, someone is waiting to make that child feel seen. The question is not whether that meeting will happen. The question is whether someone else reaches them first. Because some decisions take only seconds to make. Their consequences can last a lifetime.